Let me pull up this story. This one's funny. We got it from Business Insider. Biden used the term ultra MAGA.
So good.
After 6 months of research, now Republicans have put it on T-shirts.
Oh my gosh.
They can't meme.
That's like
So during 2015 and 16, there was a subreddit called The Left Can't Meme. And it's just reality. The left could not meme. So they banned all of the big prominent, meme channels. Instagram had a huge purge. And then along popped up these really generic left-wing meme channels. And it was just so obvious that it's astroturfed. This is what happens when they try Ultra MAGA. And now they're selling T-shirts with it because it's hilarious. Here's my favorite. Biden calls Trump the great MAGA king. Why did he think anyone would be upset about that?
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Oh
I put that on my Twitter as my Twitter name, the Great MAGA King,
Yes.
Julius
Like,
Song.
Joe Biden is, he's leading a rally where he's trying to get people to hate the right. And he goes, these right wingers, these really cool, awesome, nice people everywhere. They're just like the coolest guys ever. And I think they shouldn't be in office, but they're really smart and great.
those ultra MAGA, that MAGA king is like, everything that the light touches, we're going to build a wall around it. Okay? Building a wall around everything. The hyenas are not sending their best. Okay.
That's right.
When it comes to a culture war, if you want to call it this thing, culture war, you can't, if you use your opponent's language, you've lost. So that's what Biden just did.
I think you're right in many ways. So what the conservatives have been doing for years, which has been extremely painful, is they've been trying to use left-wing terminology against the left, and they've been trying to cede territory to them. So they'll say things like, the left are the real homophobes, for example. Now
Groomer.
that we have been using the term groomer, which is effective and accurate, the left has been starting to say, no, actually, the right are the real groomers. And I'm sitting there going, you've lost. You've lost.
There's already been several blogs where they say, actually, grooming is a good thing.
Some of them, yes. Some of them are saying it's a good thing. Some of them are saying the right are the real groomers. So they're basically accepting the narrative regardless.
I saw James Lindsay posted this. I think it was James Lindsay. He was like, as soon as you get the term, they try and take it from you. And now they're like, if you mean grooming my child to be a good person and loving and accepting, then I stand guilty as charged. And it's like, okay, you're a groomer.
You're a groomer.
But
Okay,
basically,
groomer.
like getting them to use this language is doing two things. In some instances, such as the ones you've mentioned, they're showing their true hand. They're saying, oh, actually, it's a good thing. We are in favor of it. In another instance, they're denying it. But by denying it, they are reinforcing culturally that it is, in fact, a bad thing. And for so long, the right has been doing that with the left's terminology. Oh, I'm not homophobic. Oh, I'm not transphobic. The left are the real transphobes.
But the left are the real racists.
That's true.
I
The
think. Well,
real
when you look at
racists.
like the early progressive movement, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
to this
even
day.
until this day, yeah. But when you look at the ideological roots of the progressive movement, yes, absolutely.
I don't
I
think
mean, it
people-
goes all the way back. We've talked about
I'll
Margaret
break it
Sanger
down.
and
Are there
eugenics
people
movement.
associated with the right, whatever that means, who are racist? Yes. In fact, there are many. Are they the majority? No. Do they have a lot of power in the government? Not really. When that one guy, was it Steve King, said, what's wrong with white nationalism? They booted off all of his assignments, and then he got primaried, and he's gone now. On the left, are they racist? Yes, they overtly advocate for racial segregation. In California, they tried to repeal their civil rights provision from their constitution. They tried to repeal the non-discrimination provision from their own constitution. It's like, dude, that is the rule, not the exception. On the right, it's the exception, not the rule. And I think the main reason is that moderate individuals, 2-to-1, have aligned more with Republicans. Simply, you look at Elon Musk's meme, because the left has gone off the rails. So we all stay in the same place, traditional liberals, but it's like, if I got to choose between those crazy people who want to kill babies at 9 months and those guys who are like, hey, don't kill babies, I'm going to go with the hey, don't kill babies.
Absolutely. And, I would actually be curious to see if someone could do some sort of detailed statistical analysis on exactly how many maniacs there really are within our society who would say something like children should transition their gender. I mean, if the progressive left, according to Pew Research, is only 6% of the general public, and even those people, as they've defined progressive left, don't really perfectly fit in with that category, how many people actually believe in something like
but why are they keep
transitioning children, or giving
following
sex changes to children, pushing them along through that process? And we also see this as something that is being parroted by even the president of the United States. And to your point, the reason people are following along with it is because in many cases they're cowardly. There are a lot of people who won't stand up and say that's a disgusting, horrible thing to do because they're afraid of the social ramifications.
Oh, and it's also they're the people that are around would lambaste them if they did it. I noticed with me and you, we'll have talks about religion and Catholicism. I'm pretty critical. But if we have other Catholic guests on and I say that, everyone comes at me, and it's like almost like I feel bad, like as a human, like I get stressed, and like my genetics are like, you're not going to be as healthy now because of this stress. So like there's an incentive not to speak out against a group. I noticed when I was 13 or 12 or 13, this what do they call it? Affirmative action. And I realized I was like 13, 1992. Wait, you mean if I do better than a guy who's black for a job interview, they'll give it to him because they need to fill a quota? That's reverse racism. And then as I got older, I realized, oh, that's just racism.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then I started to think about class issues, and it's a whole other nuanced conversation in there. But man, did it feel bad to hear that I wouldn't get the job because of my skin color.
Yeah, whenever I'm applying for jobs, I get to click a whole bunch of like little, tick marks. I'm a woman, I'm an immigrant, I'm Latin American, I'm this and that. I'm like, I got pretty good chances to get this job now because I'll look at how many boxes I clicked.
I like how the leftists are like, everybody line up according to the color of your skin and the size of your boobs.
Yeah.
It's like, that's creepy, dude.
I wanted to bring up real quick, there is a tweet that went viral from this account called Jack Califano, and it said the groomer and pedophile thing are the clearest moment where I've thought, oh wow, they're really planning on killing a lot of people eventually. So they're like, the left is saying that if you're pushing the groomer and pedophile thing is because you're trying to. And so this tweet has 61.2 likes as of this time.
61.2
thousand.
thousand.
Sorry. This is extreme dehumanizing language designed to prepare the right-wing fascists to feel no remorse over genocidal acts of violence.
They live in that world.
Yeah.
And the issue is, what do you think happens when you actually have these people who are going into little girls' bathrooms and taking pictures of them, and then, like, I mean, we're going to come to the point where someone's going to punch someone in the face.
You can say nothing about it. You can't call them groomers because now you're a genocidal maniac that wants, like...
It has nothing to
That's
do
their
with...
tactic.
It has nothing, but it doesn't matter. Like, we talked about that video game guy from the Washington Post who's like, I hope they use this picture of me. They literally don't care what any of us think. They're saying this for themselves. Doesn't matter.
And they don't want your apology either.
No, there's nothing you can say to them. That's why there's a tendency for the left not to interact with the right in any way. They don't care what you think. They're lying. They're not interested in telling the truth. And if you go to them and say, I'd like to correct the record, they say, shut up. So going back to what you were saying before, Ian, where you're like, they say that we're lying, and the left and the right. When prominent left-wing personalities take clips from this show out of context and then put them up, like they did to you. I think Media Matters did that. They didn't take, when you were talking about the N-word, they didn't take the full context into what you were saying. They just tried to make it seem like you were racist. When you go to them and say, hey, I'd like to show you what actually happened, they say, we don't care. We don't. They don't care. They're not going to correct it. They'll on Twitter, they'll put up a fake story. They love it. They just don't care. You know what I think it is? Children. They're immature. They did not reach adulthood. Millennials are a stunted, narcissistic generation. Certainly there are many millennials, more so like, I don't know. Are you a millennial? How old are you? Undisclosed.
We're going to the break now.
Yeah.
When does millennial begin? What year?
I don't know. It's like 82 or something. Is it?
Yeah.
Ends in like,
I'm 94, so
Okay.
I'm still millennial.
Yeah.
yeah. So,
but I identify as Gen Z.
Yeah, there you go.
For the record.
so there are millennials who are like responsible adults. Of course, I'm not saying every single millennial, but what we see, I think, with the left is why are they so cult-like and zombie-like? Because they never grew up. They never have they have no strong mind for living and being responsible for themselves.
One of
They're
the
like
things
children.
I noticed I would like to see the numbers of how wealthy people are. If you want to break, you guys know I'm not into breaking people into categories for the most part, but I will for the sake of communication, the left and the right. How wealthy are the people on the left relative to the people on the right? Because I tend to find that
More
the richer,
wealthy.
the wealthier people get, except for the ones at the very top manipulating the game, the more wealthy an individual gets, the more conservative they get because they're happy with the status quo. But if you don't have money, you start to freak out and become revolutionary.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think that at this point, and I couldn't speak to any specific statistic here other than one, which doesn't perfectly map on, but basically that you're more likely to support intervening on behalf of Ukraine if you have a higher net worth or make more money, something along those lines. But my point is, I think that the progressive, especially when you're dealing with the real progressive left, we're talking to people with all the bizarre theories about gender. I would venture to guess that they are much wealthier as a group. You don't meet working class people who believe that kind of stuff.
It started in 2012. The Democrats overtook the Republicans as the party of the top 4% of income earners. I can only assume it's increased since then, but isn't it interesting? That's like the switch when things started getting weird, things started changing. Occupy Wall Street, and then all of a sudden you have post-liberals now voting with Republicans. Why? Well, the Republicans were like, we're going to bring jobs back to the Midwest and to Michigan, and the Democrats were like, free trade with China.
What's that saying that I forgot who says it, but a conservative is a liberal who's been mugged by reality. So it's like they live in their own little world, and that's one of the biggest things that I try to talk in relation to my activism and my commentary, is that there's a lot of like bad situation that will come from those policies. I mean, we're seeing it now, and we're gonna see more and more of that. And I feel like a lot of this is sort of like comes from a place of you're spoiled. You don't know what those policies are actually gonna bring to America, how they're actually gonna pan out. I'm telling you, it's not gonna turn out that way. And if you do keep going down this road, you're gonna get wrecked. I don't want you to get wrecked. Let's not do that. Let's not do this to the country. And then they're like, oh, but it's gonna be different. We're gonna wait until like with socialism. They think that if the government amasses all this power and all this money, then it's gonna be different this time. They're gonna have a better guy. They're gonna have a nicer guy. Okay, but if you're gonna still have democracy, then later, 4 years from now, what if a bad guy comes in and uses all that money and all that power to his own evil intents? Like, you don't think about the consequences of all of these policies that you're pushing and how badly they can affect other people, because you're not going to be the first ones to be affected by that. Like, you're not the people who are living, people in Texas, they're living by the border. They're seeing all of that. They're seeing the violence in the communities. They're seeing the human trafficking. You're not going to be affected by that because you live in New York. You're not the woman that's being human trafficked. You're not the woman that's being used as a mule. So it's easy for you to push these policies when you're not affected by it directly. So I feel like it sort of like comes from a place of wealth and a place of entitlement, because as they go through reality and they get mugged by reality, they tend to become a little bit more conservative. But there is an extent of how things can really, really get bad. And I don't wish that upon America. I wish we would wake up before that. But I don't know if it will.
You were speaking from experience. You came from Brazil. You said at the beginning of the show. What kind of things did you see there that made you so sensitive to it?
So, I mean, everything that you think about. For example, you talk about healthcare, but it's sort of like all of it is in theory, but it's not really. It doesn't consider the practice of, like, let's say, human corruption or all the different things that could add, like in theory, everything is perfect, of course, but let's say you amass all this power, all this money, you take it away from me, the individual, and you give it to the government. And then what if somebody comes into the government who's not a good person? Like, you're not considering that. You're not considering the corruption. You're not considering the waste. You're not considering all these different things. So, violence, corruption, even when they say free healthcare, like, yeah, I had free healthcare. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I had to stand around the block on a queue that by the time you get to the door of the hospital, you're dead. So it's like, it's sort of like, there is another option. There is another way. It's not just completely not have healthcare or have government-sponsored healthcare, because you're gonna have so much corruption. Like, imagine what we're seeing right now with Pfizer and all of that. Like, if you charge me, you guys tell me to shut up if I'm talking too much, but like, if I go to the hospital and you tell me I have to pay $300, I'm okay. I'm looking at the receipt because I worked for those $300, so I want to make sure what I'm paying. Now, if that bill never touches my hand, It goes directly to the government. The insurance is billing it, or the companies are billing it directly to the government. The government is not going to look at all of that one by one. It's going to inflate the prices. It's going to create a huge mess in the system, a huge corrupt mess in the system. So why can't, instead of doing that, why can't we consider affordable healthcare? Because healthcare is not affordable right now. We have these companies lobbying in bed with the government. That's the actual definition of fascism, but we're not ready for that conversation. We want to be polarized. So.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.